Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be covering actually my diagnosis story. And to save time, I'm actually going to leave out the first 4 months of this. I'm going to just do a little bit of a brief overview though of the first 4 months. So basically, in January of 2018, on January 30th, I was diagnosed with a urinary tract infection. That I was given antibiotics for. During the February break in school, which is about the time of Family Day in Saskatchewan. So this is about February 14th to 19th. It depends on the year. I went to see my optometrist for double vision. And in March, I seen my doctor in Saskatoon actually had called me back for the double vision and dizziness symptoms and the other neurological symptoms that I was having, but ruled it as stress. And then April, I spent focusing on my finals so that I could graduate. The diagnosis process for IIH for me was actually quite lengthy. And it wasn't that it was the fault of anyone, really. It was the weird way in which my condition presented itself. And the fact that I may have left some things out that I didn't realize were actually symptoms until I actually looked up this condition once my doctor first mentioned it, which was post MRI. I was actually told about it that they suspected it then, but there's a process that they have to go through to confirm the diagnosis. With the MRI, it is covered in Canada as long as you go through the public health system. So I could have requested that I visit a private clinic, but then I would have had to pay for the scan. And MRIs are expensive, no matter where you are. So the best thing for me to do was wait. Now, how it works is for these scanning procedures is the doctor assesses based upon need, so they label it as a certain level of urgency basically. So, depending on the level of urgency, you'll get in faster than others. Mine was labeled at a certain level, I don't even remember, but it took a couple months to get the MRI. Once I had the MRI, I actually got results pretty fast. They said they suspected intracranial hypertension based upon the MRI, signs on the MRI. I am not a radiologist. I don't know what these signs are. I've seen different people talk about what these are, but I'm not going to talk about information that I'm not familiar with. Only either the information I can find or what is based upon my own experience. Before I had my MRI, my doctor was able to refer me to a neurologist. My neurologist had me do, again, a lot more blood work just to make sure we weren't missing anything. He referred me to an ophthalmologist. I see a neurologist and I see an ophthalmologist for basically the maintenance of my condition, but I also see my GP too. When he referred me to the ophthalmologist, I had to wait, I think it was only a couple weeks to get into that appointment. It wasn't very long at all. And they ended up doing a bunch of tests. I had tests on my eyes for a solid hour that day. It was not only uncomfortable because of the amount of testing, but it kind of got a little bit exhausting because of the amount of machines I had to have my eyes tested on. From that appointment, they found out that my optic nerves were swollen. This is called papilledema. So after the ophthalmology appointment, once the papilledema was confirmed, then I had to have a lumbar puncture done to confirm the opening pressure was high and also make sure that the components of my spinal fluid were normal. And like I said, this was the scariest medical procedure I've ever had. So for the lumbar puncture, what they do is they first sterilize it, then they give you a numbing needle. Basically, like if you've ever had a tooth pulled or anything like that, you'll know what I mean. It's a shot of numbing medication. I think they use like either lidocaine or novocaine or something like that to numb the nerves, and then they stick in a giant needle, and I mean this thing's huge. It's like it's very, very long. It's not painful because of the numbing agent, but it is extremely uncomfortable because your brain can sense that there's a lot of pressure in your back, but it doesn't really know what that is. So it can sometimes interpret that as pain, but it's mostly pressure. So there was a lot of pressure while they were getting the fluid. Actually, the most painful part was when they were doing the opening pressure reading because of the instrument that they use. It's kind of similar to if you've ever used like a burette kind of thing to do a titration in chem lab. I basically watched one of these procedures done before I had one just because I was curious as to how they were going to do this. I had no idea, and I'm way too curious about this kind of stuff, so I actually looked it up. Don't ever do that before any medical procedure because it just makes you freak out more if you think it might be painful. But it does look like a burette kind of thing. And then it equalizes the pressure basically. Once that was done, I thought I was home free actually because I did fine right afterwards. I didn't have a headache. I was able to walk out of the hospital. Fast forward about 2 days later, and it was like a 180-degree difference. I ended up having a leak, a CSF leak. The next procedure was actually a blood patch. It's a very similar procedure, but instead of taking fluid out, they put blood from your own arm in. So this was actually not as bad. I found that the doctor that I had doing it was really, really good. So he did a very, very good job. My arms were so sore. I actually have a picture of what my arms looked like after this week that I had with the lumbar puncture and blood patch on my Instagram. They were so bruised and so sore that I could barely move them. Watching my diagnosis story, I know it's a little bit of a long one, but it wasn't the typical diagnosis, that's for sure. To have a long, dragged out diagnosis was hard on me, but it worked out in the end. So if you enjoyed this video, and if you want more, definitely subscribe, like, and comment. And until next time, bye!